Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Dan.
This
Stone.
is Dexter from The
This
Offspring.
is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is David Labb.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick
I'm
Gillette.
Krista
This is
Vernoff.
Dr. Bob Greenberg.
I'm Laird Hamilton.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, I'm Mark Valley.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, everybody out there in podcast land. This is record producer Joe Solo, and I'm on the Break It Down show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero, Mark Valley, and Pete A. Turner.
I had the pleasure of seeing Joe speak at the NAMM conference back in January. It was really cool talking about you with your team, talking about producers, production, music industry, and all those things, and how do you get inside the minds of the people that ultimately you do a lot of this kind of thing, helping people figure out how to get into the music industry. You've worked with some of the biggest names, written music or produced music for some of the biggest brands in the world. We could talk about that just really quick. Macie Gray and Fergie, I mean, that's good enough for me.
I developed Macie from scratch.
Yeah.
So
that's incredible.
That was just a quick 17 years before we had some overnight success.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of how it is in the podcast world, too. You go and you pour your heart and your soul into something that you believe in, and then it's up to at some point, it's up to the audience to go, oh, yeah.
Well, I've got a theory on that in the music business. Your success is based on the irrational thoughts of millions of strangers who you'll never meet.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, people they either like music or they don't. They either feel it or they don't. It's not like they're going to analyze and go, oh, that's a great key and a perfect BPM, and therefore I like it. You know,
Yeah.
It hits them in their subconscious, and that's, of course, where irrational thought exists.
Yeah.
So your success is dependent on the irrational thoughts of millions of strangers you'll never meet.
It's absolutely true.
That's a good way to dissuade somebody from being in the music business. But the thing is, it's fun. It's so much fun.
It's fun. And then the other thing, like as you collect these irrational people that identify themselves with you, you are writing that song for them in a way that you never even considered.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not saying they're irrational. I'm saying where the irrational thought of the brain exists in all of us.
Well, we're all a little irrational.
Yeah, we're all a little bit. But, yeah, music is interpretive. And, as a songwriter, one of the things I like to keep in mind is to try and have a unique take on something, on a universal subject. So it's something that people can relate to.
Sure.
Like there's a book I'm writing as part of my whole music success workshop division, which is where I help other people how to break through in music. I wrote, the definition of a good song is a good song expresses what people don't know how to say.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I want to let you guys know, too, joesolo.com for all the information on what he does. If you're looking for more, musiccareersuccess.com is another area of information. Also, at joesolo1 on Twitter. He's not really active on Twitter very much, but I am at Pete A. Turner or at Break It Down Show or at JohnLG69 to get John. Any of us can get you over to where Joe is doing his work. Obviously, thanks to NAMM for letting us help cover and all those things. But you're talking about songwriting. So one of the things that John and I do, John's up in the Bay today, so it's me riding solo, but we do a thing called an album fight, right? And here's what an album fight is. You take two...
That sounds cool.
Oh, no, it's super cool. You take two similar level albums. Doesn't have to be same genre, just caliber, right? And you collide them together. Try to have the tracks match up in terms of numbers. So 10 on 10 is better than 10 on 12. But if the fight needs to happen, it can be 12 tracks to 10 tracks.
Are you talking about an audio mashup, basically?
No, hang on. I'm going to get you there right now. So track one versus track one is round one. Ding, ding. Track two versus track two. Ding, ding. And so it's completely has nothing to do with the quality or the caliber of anything going on. But we look at in this song. So like right now, this week, we're going to do AC/DC Back in Black.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Versus Michael Jackson Bad.
Nice.
And so now you're looking at Hell's Bells versus Bad, and you're like, good God, which one's better and why? You've got this.
Well, I can already answer that. Hell's Bells, but
okay, why?
And I'm a lover of Michael Jackson. I've done work with him. But I'm also a lover of AC/DC.
Yeah.
Hell's Bells. It's funny. I was talking to my daughter who's learning this on guitar.
Uh-huh.
That little pink Stratocaster over there, that's
Okay.
hers.
Yeah.
I think it's the perfect wake-up song.
Okay.
Because it starts with this bell.
Yeah.
And then, the riff comes in, and slowly things start to build. Like you're just waking up and getting going. And then once the beat kicks in, it's like, okay, now you're getting dressed.
Yeah.
You get excited about the day. And then, boom. It has nothing to do with the lyrics. Just the feel is like the perfect wake-up song.
Yeah.
But then again, Bad is an amazing record. Boy, that's interesting because I think you picked two records to duke it out that are each great in their own world, in their own style.
Right.
So how do you determine who the winner is?
This is the
Is
thing.
it more of a debate, like Ebert and Roper style?
So we'll have three.
Or do you have people vote? Or
So and if you can, do one with us. But
Sure.
So John and I are like the normal judges. We have two judges, and then you would be the guest judge. And then we do a 10-point must, like regular boxing. An 8 is like a standing 8 count, and a 7, which we've only ever had one, is like a band can't be knocked out because then we've done a bad fight creation, So yes, let's see what's a good album to think of. Black Sabbath, Paranoid.
Okay.
Right, huge start. First 4 songs are rock and roll pillars. Can't be, but after that, it kind of lightens up the pace. So when the other band keeps coming and they win 6 rounds to 4, you're like, wow, this is crazy. But that's what happens.
That's
so
interesting.
So like you would be a judge, we'd be a judge, and then they're always close because you're putting close albums up. Last week we did Squeeze, Cool for Cats versus Queen, The Game. And we took two, and purposely did this. We took Queen because they're probably overappreciated, legendary band, but maybe people get a little bit like, their greatest hits are so solid when the other tracks are there that aren't as brilliant. You're like, oh wait, there's actually some really terrible harmonic sounds in here. There's some bad, like when you really
literally hit or miss.
Right.
It's a hit, like an
Yeah.
actual hit.
Absolutely.
Or it's a miss.
Yeah. So
Hey, wait, there's a game show in there somewhere, right?
Yes.
Hit or miss.
Hit or miss.
Right? And the new bands can try out their material.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'll develop that.
As you should, because
my company, the whole team of executives, just yesterday we had a meeting, bouncing around different ideas on TV show pitches for Netflix, and we came up with some really crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but you get the idea. Is you go through, and so the art form of creating an album and sending someone on a journey is really kind of washed away, and it really is like you've got this like the Beach Boy. We had Beach Boys' Pet Sounds versus Sgt. Pepper's, and they line up, and you go after it. And those transitional songs, we're just going to have an interlude or we're going to have a reprise. Those become very weak rounds. And sometimes they line up with the other reprise, but sometimes they don't. And then all of a sudden, Billy Joel gets a free round against whoever he's going against because he put an actual song up, even if it's not a great song.
Do you ever put one band's record against the same band's record, like Dark Side versus The Wall, or
side one, side two kind of thing? Or
even that too.
Yeah.
But no, like Dark Side versus The Wall.
Yeah, that would be. We have not done that. This is a newer thing. We've done a number of them now, but we've not done that. And we definitely don't mind crossing genres. But yeah, having a band fight itself, even like in a double album, like record 1 from Sandinista for the Clash versus record 2 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as long as it's not greatest hits, that's the main thing.
That would be kind of cheating because that's not really the record. That's just an amalgamation of all the stuff that does work.
And if you do a cover, we give a negative penalty for that unless your cover is the version everybody thinks of. So like Ice Cream Man from Van Halen, nobody thinks. I can't remember the dude's name.
I was just thinking of You Really Got Me, from Van Halen. Well,
yeah.
Depending on where your age breaking point is, you're either Kinks or you're Van Halen.
Right. And so in that case, we'd say, okay, that's a strong cover. We're not going to really penalize. And then is it better than the other song it's against?
And like, did they put a twist on it? Like when I talk to aspiring musicians.
Yeah.
A lot of them do covers, and I always encourage original material. For so many reasons, but sometimes I'll get someone in the studio, and maybe all their friends and family told them, oh, you're such a wonderful singer, and maybe she did like a Celine Dion song, like My Heart Will Go On, and just blew it away, and then get that person in the studio with an original song, and they have no idea what to do. Well, that's because they've had Celine Dion as a template on how to sing, My Heart Will Go On, and that's a lot easier to do.
Yeah.
So it could be jarring,
right?
If you don't have that experience, if you don't know what you're getting into.
It is jarring. So let me ask you this then. With the album fight concept in mind, you'll have two songwriters line up. Like, for example, we had Nirvana and U2 fight, right? You basically have Bono's words versus Kurt Cobain's words. And we just didn't get enough time for Kurt to develop. And you can see it in this format where you see you understand the brilliance of what Kurt has done, but a lot of it's high school notebook lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's great. And in the context of this song and this album, wonderful, but look what's going on over here in the other corner. And it's clearly better. So not to say that Kurt Cobain's a bad songwriter in any form, but songwriters do evolve. Some are better at words. When you've got a young act coming up and they write a party rock song, or I see a girl when she's hot and she makes me excited song, that song's been written a million times and will always be written. But how do you push them to a place where they can get to? And you can easily push them too far, but how do you push them to find something new in that very worn out system?
A lot of times at the very beginning of making a record with an act, I spend a fair amount of time hanging out with them, getting to know who they are as people.
Okay.
And it's amazing. Artists, to a producer that they trust, and the key is trust, they will open up about the most personal situations. Because if I just ask, hey, what's this song about? It may be a very personal situation that they don't want to share with too many people.
Yeah.
In its raw form, in the story form. But in the song form, they can express themselves and do that. So I have to understand who they are so that I could synergize with them to make a record that best represents who they are. And at the same time, if it's a newer artist, I'm trying to develop a signature sound.
Right.
So they sound unique. That's key.
Yeah.
And so it's really a process of really getting to understand the artists or your co-writers or collaborators, who they are, and try and tap into that when you need to. A lot of times you'll get someone who's like really talented but can't write lyrics but think they can.
Oh, okay.
If that's the case, I just have to be really straightforward and say, I think we need to bring in a professional lyricist who can understand what you're all about and then craft songs that you can still feel passion for singing, but it'll be so much faster and better, and it's worth it. And also, when you bring in collaborators, I'm big on collaboration because you get this great synergy. You come up with ideas that no one would come up with by themselves.
Right.
Your ideas and my ideas, they have little baby ideas, and those are the winners. And then also, just from like a purely business perspective, you've got another professional hustling the song,
right?
And the chances of it making more money, are increased by a third. So that's cool too.
When two really good songwriters, Lennon and McCartney, when they get together, or whoever it's going to be, maybe it's Michael Hutchence and God damn, I can't think of his name right now.
And somebody else.
Yeah. Well, the other guy. So sometimes they bring something that you can't get to yourself. Like, okay, sure, you made some words rhyme, but give this song to Glenn Ballard.
Don't get me started on rhymes.
Right.
Sometimes people just they're struggling with a song and they just want to feel like they finished it, and they'll go to some place like rhymezone.com.
Right.
Which is actually a great resource if you're looking for words because it breaks it down by rhyme, sound alike, and syllable.
Sure.
But a lot of times someone will go to a site like that and just grab a word that rhymes, that fits with the rhythm, so they can plug it in and tell themselves, oh, great, the song is done, and
Yeah.
yay. But it's not. It's not until every single word,
Yeah.
everyone propels the listener forward within the story and touches whatever emotions the song is supposed to touch in the listener, whether it's anything from the worst heartbreak and loss through celebration. And I was at the car wash the other day, and the song "Celebration" by Kool and the Gang came on,
Right.
and I was really analyzing it, and it's such a brilliant song. The whole arrangement, the horns, these little guitars, everything, and then the words.
Yeah.
They're not complicated, but a celebration shouldn't be a complicated lyric.
Mm-hmm.
Celebration time, come on. Yahoo!
Right. And when I'm on my phone, I'm listening. I'm just want to make sure I get the words right.
No problem.
So when Elton John sits down, he's got a lyric from Bernie Taupin, and he doesn't worry about the lyric anymore. And Bernie creates this world that John then fills on his songwriting into the deal, and he brings in Crocodile Rock or whatever it's going to be. I mean, we were looking at Up the Junction in the album fight with Squeeze and Queen,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like Chris Difford hands Glenn Tilbrook 400 words. He hands him an essay, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to take my Cockney accent, and I'm going to say crazy-ass things. Like one of the lyrics that they have is arrow in his hat in Cool for Cats. But like if I say arrow in his hat, that's not as good as when he goes arrow in his hat, and it becomes something better. When do you find someone else in the band? Do you go hire Glenn Ballard, who will gladly come down and spend time and create a song that is at least as good and probably better than what the band has? I mean, because he won't worry about the one word. He'll say this whole line, this whole stanza, out, do this.
If we need to go outside,
Mhm.
if we need to go outside, there's a whole stable of writers that I have long-standing creative relationships with, and so I'll select someone who I think can nail it for that act.
Yeah.
So like one of my collaborators, she wrote for Barbra Streisand, and she does a lot of theater and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, if it's some rock band, I'm not going to bring her in.
Right.
I got this other guy. The beat might be going like boom, boom, boom. He'll come up with a boom, just that noise. I'm no singer, but
You're doing it,
as you can tell. And he can reach into this sort of guttural thing. So it depends. I try to make a good match, but I also write myself. So the first person I'm going to go to as an outside writer is myself, of course.
Yeah.
I find with bands, because there's so many people involved, there's multiple brains already involved, they usually don't need outside help as much as, say, like a solo singer.
Okay.
Or a lot of times I'll work with a singer, and he or she may have a brilliant concept. The storyline is brilliant, but it could be told in a more poetic way. One of the things I always say when it comes to writing lyrics is don't tell me, show me.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So, for example, you can say, I walked into the room and she was crying.
Right.
That's
Telling.
That's telling, right? Or, when I walked into the room, pictures of her lost love were everywhere.
Right.
And they were drenched.
Right. Tissues on the floor, something like that.
Something that just paints the picture.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably not the best example in the world.
Yeah, well, we're freestyling, so that's all right.
Yeah, and I still haven't had enough of my snack to get my brain sugar going here. So,
well, okay, so let me jump in then and talk a little bit about, as you work with a band, and you said you want to build trust. You've been doing this a long time. So when you say yes to a band, it's a big deal for them. And there's trust, and there's the other end of it is the band going, holy fuck, Jesus Christ, Joe Solo said yes. we can't blow this. Like they want to be over eager, they want to over deliver, and all these things. You've got to, I'm sure, slow them down. Say, slow down, everybody.
Well, I got to tell them
Yeah.
that it's the ideas themselves that have merit, not who comes up with them. Because a lot of times I might suggest something and the artist isn't really digging it, but they'll go with it anyway because I'm the pro or I'm Joe Solo, whatever like that.
Right.
So I tell them right away, don't do that. We got to serve the song
Yeah.
first,
Right.
not our egos, and not walk on eggshells with each other.
Yeah.
If something's not working, just say so, and that way we can get a better song. Don't assume because I've developed, Grammy winners that have sold millions of records.
Sure.
That I'm going to be right every time, or my ideas are better.
But you do have to have some rigor in that process, though. I mean,
well, I just say that in the beginning,
Okay.
so they feel comfortable just being honest.
right.
If they're not feeling it, and if I think it's a good idea, I'll fight for an idea if I have to, and I ask them to fight for two. I don't mean fight like really fight, but really, sometimes somebody comes up with an idea that's so good, it doesn't hit you right away. The brilliance of it.
Yeah. U2 does something like this. I love U2, by the way, as I always
Yeah.
talk about them. But
They're a favorite of mine.
yeah, they don't want good to get in the way of great. And so if an idea is good, they're going to try to kill it. And they're going to pull out the dobro and do it in a duo with a dobro and a tambourine. And if the song can survive these different iterations, oftentimes they go back to version 1, but they're going to see what's there and push the idea hard and see if it dies, or push it and see if it grows in a different direction and becomes something else altogether. But is that something that a seasoned band can do and that a young band would struggle with? I mean, does the young band have the horsepower to stay and work at it and know? I mean, U2 knows what
It
great
really
is.
depends on the artist's character. I mean,
Okay.
and that's why it's important for me to get to know them in the beginning too. Like, they have to be great, they have to be funded, and they have to have something going on, a big audience or management or a record deal or something. Those are the prerequisites, because if that musical greatness isn't there, all I could do is make a larger than life
Yeah.
piece of crap. A crystal clear. If they have horrible songs and they won't budge on outside influences, must go with those songs, then all I could do as a producer is take those songs and make their crappiness shine so obvious and
Yeah.
bright, and so it always starts with great songwriting.
Okay.
All the production in the world on a movie won't save a terrible script.
No, right.
You
you're
could
right.
add all the
Yeah.
CGI and explosions and top stars, but if the script doesn't bring the clever,
Yeah.
it's going to fall flat on its face. And it's the same with songs. Somehow we always get there, and sometimes we get there very quickly. Sometimes the songs are perfect, and I don't, there's nothing to do in terms of changing anything in terms of the writing.
Right.
That happens a lot as well. And the thing is that you got your whole life to write your first record.
Yeah.
So you've had a chance to write and rewrite these songs. You've had a chance to perform them for people and get feedback and all that. Really, the tough one is your second record,
Sure.
especially if your first one's successful. Then you got 6 months to a year to bang out the second one, and the expectation
crazy.
is that it'll be better and outsell. And yet, if you've been on the road all year promoting the first record,
Uh-huh.
so one thing I advise artists on the big picture is to always save one or two of their better songs for the second record.
Give yourself a head start.
Yeah, and that's hard to do because if the first record tanks, there is no second record.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
really difficult to do.
Yeah. But you have to write songs every day anyhow, right? So if a band has potential and they're writing a song every day, even if they're at 300 songs in a year, how many of those songs are album quality, do you think? I know it's a big question, but
No, I mean, unless you're a real gifted lyricist, writing a song every day, that it might be good to write every day for your craft, but writing a song just to write a song every day, I think, it might yield you, 3 or 4 good songs. I mean, I'm going for hits. I'm looking for hits.
Okay.
And
where do the hits live then? If they're not necessarily living in repetition, what does someone who thinks they have hits in them, what do they do to get them out?
Well, first of all, everyone thinks they have hits. Like
Absolutely.
a couple years ago, at another NAMM show talk, I asked everybody how many people. There's like maybe 400 or 500 people in the room, and I asked how many people in here are songwriters, and like almost every hand goes up.
Yeah.
And then just for fun, I said, and how many of you are hit songwriters? And almost every hand goes up.
More hands go up.
Just about the same amount. And then everyone busts out laughing because everyone realizes, wait, we can't all be hit songwriters, you know? And the point was made right there. Like, what is a hit? It's a hit. It just is a song that really resonates with a lot of people. That's a hit. It's catchy and it's hook laden. I've got to say,
but you can put catchy and hooks together and absolutely miss too, though. Like
well, you can. You have to bring the clever. Remember that song "All Star" by Smash Mouth?
Yeah.
They were having trouble breaking through, and just for fun, just to like get the crap off their brain, they said, let's take every meaningless, cheesy hook, instrumentally, lyrically, rhythmically, everything that we could think of, just the most generic hooks we could think of,
right,
and mash them together into one song.
Yeah.
And that was All Star, which is a great song and very hooky, a big hit, and it's the one that broke them through. And it's mind-boggling how much money a hit single can generate. It makes lives. When Adele came out, her record label that she was signed to in England was called X Recordings, or no, I'm sorry, X. I think it's XL Recordings. They were doing $3 million gross a year, and then 2 years after she came out, $133 million is what they grossed.
Yeah,
and that was based off a song.
Yeah,
it's
unbelievable.
So really, a hit single. That's what everyone's really after. That's like in the gold rush. That's like finding that vein of gold that is very rare.
Yeah.
But you got to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig, and who knows if you'll ever find it or not.
You will find something though, if you work that hard.
Yeah, you might find your limit, and a lot. Sure. I remember reading about some guy who gave up. He dug for a while and he gave up. He sold his equipment and went back home with his tail between his legs. He sold the rights to this mine to these investors who hired some geologists who knew something about tectonic plate shifts. And turns out the guy was like 5 feet to the right of where the main vein was.
Right.
And had he gotten the information instead of just gave up, he could have struck it rich. And this is where I come in.
Yeah.
Is I try and help aspiring professional musicians get the information they really need to be as successful as they can on their terms. I put together a set of these music success video nuggets. They're free and tips. And if someone wants them, all they have to do is go to my website, joesolo.com, and sign up.
Yeah.
And they'll get the first one right away. It's called How to Get Your Music in Film and TV.
Yeah.
Which is a real good one because there's no faster way to make money and get worldwide recognition for your music than getting in a movie or a TV show.
There's no doubt. You get to be the girl that sings that song in that Disney movie.
Yeah.
That's a career launcher and possibly a career. You just go and go and go. But
it's very satisfying.
Too. Yeah, super satisfying. So when someone does do something like that, so they watch your video and they get some ideas, is that enough, or is there still a lot more? Like, do they need more help? Because obviously, that's just that's a piece of an element that you're going to give.
Well, there's so much to learn, but I try and get straight to the stuff that will make a difference.
Yeah.
Sometimes I could say a couple sentences that might be life altering. I'll give you an example. There was this gentleman who came to one of my Malibu retreats. What he had done was he had taken his entire library of music, it was about 40 songs, and he attached them all as MP3s, bought a resource book of music supervisors, and in one day emailed everybody 40 songs.
Yeah.
And he didn't realize that most music supervisors can't stand attachments and that they want links because it bogs down their email accounts, and they sit there and spend their time deleting those emails and just getting, ticked off. And so like here the guy thought, wow, I really moved my career forward.
Yeah.
But it gets even worse because like all the music supervisors, they all know each other. They have lunch together. They're best friends. It's a very tight-knit industry, right? So they'll be at lunch, and one of them will be like, man, I can't believe this kid sent me 40 songs. Like I have time to listen to 40 songs, and none of them had anything to do with the shows I'm working on.
Right.
He clearly didn't do his research.
Right.
He doesn't know what he's doing. I'm not going to do business. I don't care how great his music is. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I can't work with someone like that because someone who doesn't know what they're doing might mess up a whole deal. Let's say I get a director to fall in love with a song for their montage, and then this uninformed songwriter, he wants $180,000 for it.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
When typically you might get $5,000 for it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's going to make me look really bad. And that's going to blow trust between the director and myself.
Right.
And, all anybody really has in this business is their reputation.
Sure.
So you can't take a chance on someone like that, no matter how good their music might be. Imagine there's a lunch up in Hollywood, and there's 8 or 9 top Hollywood supervisors all eating together, and one of them's like, man, this kid sent me, 40 of his songs on an email. Oh, and they all groan like, oh, that's awful,
Yeah.
And who was it? Yeah. And he mentions the name. They're like, oh, yeah, I got that. I got an email from that guy, too.
Yeah.
Me too. Obviously, he didn't take the time to do the research on what projects they're working on. He didn't respect their time, thinking they're just going to drop everything they're doing, and music supervisors are just so busy.
Right.
Especially on the ones who are working on television because they've got a harsh broadcast deadline every single week. They don't have time to mess around.
Yeah.
So it's really important, just like the people who got the information on tectonic shifts to find the vein of gold, it's important to get the information you need to know about how this industry operates,
right?
What the secret handshakes are,
sure,
what the do's and don'ts are. That's one of the things I focus on when I'm doing retreats or writing a book or talking at a podcast right now.
Yeah.
It's just to try and help artists break through and get their dream, because those music dreams never die.
There's a weird thing that happens perception-wise, across any industry, where we, as the other person, as the artist that wants to break through and send that email out to all of the music supervisors, you don't understand what their life is. And so you make these assumptions where like, oh, they're not doing anything. Like police,
or I'm so good, they'll drop everything for me.
For sure. Yeah. And let's understand this. No one gives a fuck about your idea. Like everybody's got a great idea. It takes a lot more than that to get in the door. But you have like this perception of police violence against whatever, inner city kids. Well, they just need more training. And so now flash to the guy that runs training for the police department. He's like, gosh, I wish I had 80 more hours of training to give out. Like that guy's already working pretty much at max capacity, And then the guy that runs like the manning for all the police in the field's like, I sure do have a surplus of cops in the field. I wish I had something to take up more time. Like like that isn't a reality.
Well, yeah,
These guys are already doing a lot. You have
music
to
supervisors are the most jocked people in the industry
I'm
right
sure.
now. 'Cause everybody wants their music
Right.
in film or TV or video games.
So you can't blast your way to this. You can't just outwork the problem.
You got to show how you're going to help them make their job easier. I get people writing me, "Hey Joe, I'm from England. I'm coming into LA, and I was wondering if you could call up your main contacts and set some meetings for me."
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I met this person. It was an email that said that. And I was like, huh? I'm happy to share the wealth to a certain degree, but
yeah.
I don't think I'm just going to take the 30 years of relationship building and refer someone I don't even know.
Sight unseen, yeah.
And obviously, because they didn't know that kind of self-centered approach doesn't work, I already know kind of who they are,
right?
Where their character is. And making it in music is all about your character. All about your character.
On Twitter all the time, I get hit up in general, and it's all robots. And if it's not, it's just a person automating as much as they can what they want to do. But hey, do you need beats? Like, what about my account profile makes you think I need beats? I don't need beats. I don't want to hear your new music. I am interested in how you found me. Let's have a conversation, because maybe I'll have you on my show, because I'll have anybody on my show. I'm glad to give someone a break, but it can't be a one-way street where like my stuff, subscribe. Like, oh, okay. Slow down. But songwriters have that perception, and I guess there's people that make it by just absolutely hammering and pounding and pounding.
No, I don't.
You don't think so?
There's persistence, but you have to have professional persistence.
Yeah.
Someone sends me some music. If I say I'm going to listen to it, I don't want to get a call that night. Well, did you listen to it? What do you think? Huh? You want to hire me?
Yeah. So how fast can someone follow up? Someone sends you an email. Hey, I'd love for you to give me your thoughts on your music. I understand that you're busy. I'm going to follow up in a week. Is that fair? Something like that?
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of private coaching, one-on-one consultation, and a big part of that is song analysis.
Okay.
So I'll give it a quick spin and rattle off one or two quickies. But if they really want to improve and make some headway,
right,
I suggest signing up for a consultation. I charge a lot for it too, and I don't do these too often because they kind of interrupt the day.
Yeah.
But I do them if someone's approach is professional and kind and respectful, and
sure,
and if there's got to be something there, even if the music isn't good and their approach is good, there's just something there to give me an excuse. I'm so busy,
right.
Every hour counts. Like I'm talking about missing sleep or missing time with my kids.
Yeah,
that's
what you're asking for. So this is that person on the other end of your thought is like, no, this person really is busy. They're already doing everything they can do, and you want an hour or you want this, you've got to have something to return the favor.
Yeah, so I'll give it a quick spin, or maybe even I'll just give it, a verse and a chorus, and I'll just whatever quick thoughts come to my mind. And I only really need one listen to properly analyze a song. It'll tell me so much. Like the other day, I was doing a consultation for somebody, and I popped on the song, and within like 10 or 20 seconds, I hit pause, and I said, "I'll bet you that at the studio you did this with, there was no producer and the engineer had a ponytail." And they're like, "Oh my God, how could you know that?"
How could you know? Yeah.
Well, because these very 80s sounding guitars and playing guitars is on there. And so it sounds to me like you got maybe like an engineer who also played guitar on it, who still has the 1980s little ponytail.
Yeah.
And that's where his style is, and I can hear that. And guys who play guitar in 2018 that sounds like the 80s tend to dress this way.
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny, but all and it was a sound of like a Marshall stack and Floyd Rose, dive bombs, and just all this stuff that just said, I'm stuck in the 80s as a guitarist.
Yeah.
And not that there's anything wrong with 80s music, but if you're trying to come out as a new artist, a current artist, chances are, the 80s lead guitar thing is not going to work, given where music is and what the guitar's role in music is nowadays.
What is that role?
Oh, well, it's depending on the style, but it's much more rhythmic and supportive than shredding leads.
Yeah.
It's much more rhythmic and supportive, and also where I'd like to push it, because I'm a guitar player. It's my primary instrument.
I'm looking at about 10 different guitars.
Yeah,
on my left shoulder
the Gibson SG over there, that's my main one.
Uh-huh.
I love that thing. I'm trying to push the guitar in sort of a more psychedelic place that it has not gone to yet, but over EDM and hip-hop beats.
Okay.
And with sonics that are not reminiscent of the past. But I got to be thinking, whether it's my own music or somebody else's, I have to be thinking about 2 years into the future.
Yeah.
Where do I want to push the style to? Because it takes 2 years to properly set up a marketing campaign and get the record out, make the record, get it out, and all that. So even if you're producing a sound that's current today, by the time the record comes out, it's 2 years in the past. It's 2 years old sounding, and that's no good.
When you say that, I know you work with a lot of newer groups, but when you talk about in terms of managing your audience, you have to grow with your audience. There's a lot of people like that shredding, virtuosity, 80s based kind of guitar, right? They like that.
But put a twist on it.
Okay.
Do it in a new way. Instead of like it sounding like it's in the 80s.
Right.
Take that, there's a concept in marketing that applies in music too, and that is taking something that's very classic and well known and marrying it with something that's brand new.
Is that what Bruno Mars does, or does he go a little closer to the source? Because you hear you listen to I heard Perm on the way over, and that's James Brown and a bunch of whole other things.
Bruno Mars, first of all, is quite incredible, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
But he is like a very modern version of 70s disco. But he's not singing like the Bee Gees falsetto.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It doesn't, and the sonics sound like modern instruments that harken to the 70s.
Right, okay.
And the arrangements harken to the 70s. They point to it. But they're still modern. One thing that's really cool about Bruno Mars is that he's got this diversity that he gets away with that I think is very hard to get away with. Because you have to have an identifiable style or sound. Like a lot of people will come to me and like, look, I can sing country. I got a country song. I got a rock song. I got a hip hop song where I rap. I can do all these things. And that's going to be confusing to your audience because it's going to be like, well, who are you?
Right.
That person will never get signed by a record label. Sometimes someone will think, I've got all these talents. I could do anything. So tell me what you want me to be.
Yeah. There's
no character in that. There's no knowledge of self. And the record company, they can't tell you who you are and who you want to be. That's your job, is to have such a strong sense of your musical identity that when they hear it, they get it. It's clear that you have actualized the belief in your music with the actual music.
I'm thinking about Lenny Kravitz, and when he first came out, it was
sure.
like, that's Jimi Hendrix. Like someone has to do this. Jimi Hendrix died, So, and when you look at when he came out, Jimi Hendrix had died really only about 15 years before, like when he first started making music. But he did find his voice, and yes, there's roots of Jimi Hendrix in it. But how does he get there? It's obviously partly his own journey, but is it also the producers that kind of help him figure out his voice so he's not just this Jimi Hendrix knockoff?
I don't know if I could agree with the assessment that he's a Jimi Hendrix knockoff.
I'm talking way back in the beginning.
Because
that's
just Hendrix is had many guitar firsts.
Yeah.
And Lenny is he can't play guitar remotely at the same level as Jimi Hendrix. but I understand what you're saying. Maybe just in terms of really the drums, that Mitch Mitchell
Okay.
drum vibe
Yeah.
does recall Hendrix. You know,
Yeah.
you know.
There was a
So-
sonic nature in his singing that was very reminiscent to Jimi Hendrix.
Okay, all right. So you're referring more to the vocals.
I mean, there definitely was a lot of callbacks, and this is when he first came out. But then he did find his own voice. So I'm trying to figure out, like, how does someone do that? It's not just a self thing, because when he's self-taught and got to the point where he could get some money and some backing, he sounded a lot like a Jimi Hendrix guy, you know. So how does he get to that next level? That third album, that fourth album,
Well,
that allow
I'm
him to
biased
sound-
because I'm a producer, but
yeah.
on my website, I have a section of before and afters where you can hear like the demo
Yeah.
or the recording that somebody made on their own, and then what the finished broadcast quality master I made
Right.
is.
That's cool.
So you can hear the difference that a seasoned producer makes, but also a seasoned producer also knows when the magic is already there and when to sit there and just hit record and don't say anything or do, you know. So I don't want to take anything away from the artist. A lot
For
of
sure.
times the artists have evolved there completely on their own, and the producer's job is to not get in the way of that.
Yeah.
You know, it might be to remind them, whoa, wait, you're there. You're already there. You don't need to like keep trying to evolve or force an evolution. It sounds great. You're there.
Yeah.
You know.
We're running low on time, so I want to make sure we get a chance to talk about this, because I love this idea, and it's the music industry has evolved so much. I don't want to say it's any harder or easier, because it's never been easy. You always have to find an audience, and where they are is changed dramatically. But there's still formulas, there's still things you can do as you try to figure out what your thing is. One of the things that you do is you do these retreats out in Malibu. That doesn't suck. Out in a house out there, and you cover a lot of this music industry stuff. So I was hoping that you kind of give us an idea of what these events are about, and you know, when someone who's considering getting into the music industry and they're listening to this, they're like, oh shit, I need to be in Malibu with Joe.
Yeah. Its official name is Joe Solo's Malibu Beach House Music Success Retreat.
All right. You had me at Joe.
Oh, thank you. And all levels, from absolute beginner to seasoned professional, go. All ages, races, styles. It's just people who are serious about having a career in music. And in one weekend, we're going to design a personal roadmap to music success.
Wow.
So we have a opening party Friday night where people get to know each other.
Yeah.
And Saturday morning, a lot of the actual coaching begins. But I run it in a way where I'm not just talking all the time, but it's more of a conversation where anybody can chime in on anything at any time. We get a real good synergy going. Like when we do a song analysis, I'll give my take on it, but then the other people who are attending will also have a different perspective. And so you get a lot of feedback that you need to hear. And then we also have a panel of 7 music supervisors and publishers and managers come in Saturday afternoon. And for those who are staying overnight, and there's only 15 slots for that, and there's only 30 total slots for the whole thing. So keep it real small and intimate, so everyone gets to know everyone really well, and everyone becomes each other's support and network for the rest of life, really. And after the panel, we break for an hour, and then we have dinner with the panelists, catered by a Hollywood health chef.
That's how you have to do it in Malibu.
Well,
you don't bring in pizza.
Here's a chance for people to start their own relationship with these people that it might take 10 years to be able to like knock on their door, and here you are having dinner with them. Everybody kind of hangs out afterwards. I stay there the whole time, the whole weekend. I stay there as well. And then on Sunday, we continue on with the coaching. And we do some breakout songwriting sessions and some other things like that. And then there's a bunch of giveaways at the end. Monday morning, check out and say goodbye. But that's not it, because the whole point is to get a personalized roadmap to your music success. So starting 2 weeks after the retreat, I'll do, depending on what level people buy, anywhere between an hour and 4 hours of one-on-one consultations. They can take everything that they've learned at the retreat, let it marinate in their brain for a few weeks, and then that's where we tie together a custom plan.
That's huge to get the access to the people that they need access to, but then also like this follow-on stuff is, I mean, having a plan that's executable, writing workshops, that's enormous. But what level band member? You said all levels, but
absolute beginner to seasoned professional.
Yeah.
People who are really serious about being successful in music. And that's the thing, is that you really got to make your best shot at it. And you can't make one single shot. You got to keep going and going and going, and just never, ever, ever, ever give up. What you don't want to do is spend your last 10 or 15 years of life wondering, I wonder what could have happened.
Yeah.
And then you see your colleagues and friends are making it and living in a mansion and playing their music and touring the world, and maybe you gave up at some point.
Yeah, you're right. And
you gotta keep pressing on.
I suppose something like the workshop, the retreat, Paul Williams came to Hollywood to become a leading man actor, and he's a tiny little dude. Turns out he's a Hall of Fame songwriter instead. But you can go to something like this and start to realize, maybe my spot isn't to hold the guitar and sing these country songs.
Oh, yeah.
But I can turns out I can write these soul songs. Like we had Allie Willis on the show. Her show will go up probably right around the time this one does. And she can write beautiful, soulful, funky music, but she's a white lady from Detroit. But she had this black person's soul in her, know? And you have to go to a place like this to have someone say, no, it's okay. Person who doesn't fit this description, you still have this kind of musical soul, so let it out,
Yeah, and you don't even have to be a musician. There's so many different roles in the industry. Like, the whole industry is seeded with people who started out as an artist or in a band.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, they decided, well, that direction's not working for them. But maybe they became an entertainment attorney or a publicist or a publisher or a promoter. I mean, there's just so many other ways to be involved in music. And we go over those things at the workshop as well.
Yeah.
We go over marketing principles. We go over the creative aspect, the actual music. We go over the personal sense of self aspect, the character aspect.
Yeah.
That's huge. We go over basic deal structures and copyright, because you have to know this stuff so that if you walk into a room of industry professionals, A&R people at the record label, and you're talking with them, and they say some terms and you look like you don't even get what they're talking about, then they're not going to want to have anything to do with you business-wise.
Because you're not ready to be in their room.
You're not ready.
Yeah.
So this is about getting ready.
Yeah.
And you can change your life. It's life-changing in one weekend.
I want to ask you more, but we're out of time, so we're going to have you come back on. But I want to ask you about...
Let's do a part 2.
Yeah, no, because I really want to get into... And I'm letting you get away with it because it's your first time. But normally I'd be like, stop everything. We're talking about this. But bring the clever. It's clever. And I want to get into that, but not this episode. But you remind... When you say that, I think about the band Pomplamoose, because they do all these clever covers of all these incredibly successful songs. So you go listen to all the single ladies and you get Beyonce's version. And then the next one in the queue is Pomplamoose, and they just do these have you seen or heard of their stuff at all?
I've never even heard of them, but now I'm excited to check them out.
Oh, yeah. Once you start watching, you're going to be like, yeah, they bring the clever a ton. They're fantastic. The wife and the couple, Natalie Dawn, she's been on the show before. But that bringing the clever, I would love to get more into that. And so, but yeah, please come back on. Let's do this again. And if you're down to, we'd love to have you sit in and do an album fight with us as well.
You can count on that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. #DoTheWork, #album fight. Hey, everybody, it's Joe Solo, joesolo.com. You can go to @JoeSolo1 or @PDayTurner, @JohnLG69, or at Break It Down Show. Thank you again to NAMM and the folks there that give us access, because we get to talk to folks like you and Wes maybe and Allie Willis and all these other NAMM members. It's such a great thing. It's sort of like it's part, I don't know, it's like part convention, part workshops like crazy on
The NAMM
any
show?
kind of topic. Yeah, it's such a
Well,
big,
there's like 200,000 people there. It's
it's
just
crazy.
crazy energy. It's awesome.
Yeah, they've almost expanded outside of the expanded Anaheim Convention Center. Like it's that big, and it's a blast. So I appreciate them giving access, and appreciate you and your time today. I know
Oh,
it's
my
valuable.
pleasure. My pleasure.
And thank
I'm
you
going to
so
be
much.
speaking at the Canadian Music Week on May 9th, if anybody's going to be there.
Nice. Yeah, come by
I'm
and see Joe.
Doing a keynote on the application of three-dimensional audio
Whoa.
from a record producer's perspective.
Yeah. And that's how I met Joe. I was able to grab him after one of his talks at NAMM, so he's definitely approachable. And if you've got the bug and you're thinking about music as possibly a new career or an emerging artist like Bull Moose, and you guys want to spend the money, Malibu and Joe Solo is a good way to go. Hey, thank you, man.
My pleasure.